Alrighty. Well, I know it's been a while since I've made a video. I do apologize for that. I've been really busy with school, and I've had things that I've had to do in real life. I do appreciate all of the wonderful feedback and people who enjoy my content. It means a lot to me, so I'm glad I could help. I figured since the Frieren collaboration had just started, I'd go over some of the monsters and give you my opinions on which ones I think are good, which ones are worth spawning, and overall give you some math. I know everyone loves math, but making sure that you have enough gems before you start spawning this collab. So I figured I'd start off with these two spawns. I would not recommend doing either of these. You're basically, for the 70 gems, you're basically never going to get a monster. And for the 50 gems, it's never worth it. These axes become Tempest Wing, which is pretty shit. It's not a great proc. And these become Guardian Helm procs, which I did some research on Limapedia, and if it's the Helm of Guardian procs, if that's the same ones, then they're also really bad procs. There's a chance that it's a new proc, but I've never seen a new proc come out in a collab. Generally speaking, the collab monsters are the only thing worth going for, and they're extremely unique with things that will never come back. And if a collab does come back, it'll come back in a couple of years, and generally all of those monsters will be obsolete by the time that that collab comes back. The general weapons and armors from collabs basically always go to infusions in other gear because they're almost always garbage procs. I think there's been like 1 or 2 collabs in the 9 years that I've been playing this game that had really good procs. They basically never do. So you only want the monsters. With that said, in order to guarantee a monster, I would recommend doing one of the 2 step-up spawns. It looks like, from reading it, that you can do 1 step-up spawn and get these step-up medals, and then do the other step-up spawn and get those same medals. So you can, like, let's say that you wanted a monster from the first step-up, you can do this once to get the monster and then do the other step-up, and then at the end you should be able to trade for those. So each step up costs a total of 235 gems to get to the bottom. There's 7 steps in total, and you'll get somewhere between 1,000 and 1,400 gems. Or 1,000 to 1,400 medals. With that said, it'll take between somewhere around 750 gems to 900 gems. Somewhere in that range to be able to get the 4,000 medals that you would need to exchange for one of these scrolls for whichever monster you wanted. So that's what I would recommend if you wanted these monsters. So I'll go over the monsters now. Honestly, I think there are some really interesting monsters. And definitely if you skipped out on some of the monsters from the 10th anniversary for celebrating the Japanese Unison League 10th anniversary, you'll probably want to pick up some of the monsters in this collab because they're very similar. So starting off with Frieren, she is pretty unique. She applies this new thing called Fortify, which I have never seen before. But basically the way that I'm reading it is if a physical or magical damage exceeds 25% of your maximum HP, then it will reduce that HP down to 25%. And it'll also remove 10 seconds from the 120 seconds left on the buff. That's the way I'm reading it. And if that's true, then that is extremely powerful. Now, it seems like this is a new buff. I have not personally seen this before. And so if this is the case, then it could apply differently for CP and HP. When you're in Coliseum and when you're in guild battles, you have that blue bar, that's the CP bar. So if it's the case that it applies a different type of HP percent to that, then that would be worth mentioning. But it seems like this is an extremely defensive proc or buff that could be extremely powerful. But more testing needs to be done. So we'll just go over the top. She does okay damage. Call it basically 500 once you fully max it. 5 times. It's not bad. It actually hits pretty hard. But she is star. So it's one of those things. Star is really powerful right now, so a lot of people are rocking tons of time defense. She reduces Unison gauge gains on enemies, cost recovery on enemies. She reduces all enemy cost to 30. This is a really, really unique demerit. I've never seen this type of demerit before. Usually demerits reduce the enemy cost to 50. This type of demerit is extremely, extremely rare. The reason why this monster could be really powerful is if the enemy has an enemy field that doubles your cost, and this monster reduces your reduces your cost to 30 on the enemy team, then there's a chance that you can only use one ability before you're completely out of cost. So this is a great cripple monster so far. I mean, from what I'm reading, this seems like a really good PvP and guild battle cripple monster. She applies this new thing that I talked about called Fortify. She applies Twilight, which basically means that when your team is attacking, there's no proc that will protect the enemies. So you should basically kill them. Barracks is the best bubble because it gives you 100% stats to everything and ensures crits. And she gives the new infinite element field, which is a 120 instead of the usual 100% on stats. Overall, I think this monster is a 6 out of 10 with a huge asterisk that says needs more testing on Fortify. Because if Fortify applies to your max HP and not CP, usually your CP is like 5 to 10 times more than your max HP, which means that you could theoretically survive massive, massive damage coming your way. And if you time extend the Fortify, it'll last even longer. So there's a chance that Fortify is an extremely powerful buff, but I think that a little bit more testing needs to be done. I think she's also really unique with the cost. However, a lot of monsters already kind of cripple cost. It is worth mentioning as well that in high-level PvP and guild battles, people are usually rocking cost reduction constants. And so reducing cost can become basically impossible. With this demerit means that you could technically reduce somebody's cost, but it is a demerit, which means that there's a chance that you increase somebody's cost. I mean, if they have 0 cost, this will always set their cost to 30. So if for some reason, sorry, my nose keeps running. If for some reason the enemies have 0 cost, this will give them 30 cost. I mean, obviously they won't be able to recover the cost very quickly, but it is still a demerit. So it's kind of one of those things, it's unpredictable. She also doesn't give 40,000, she gives 35,000 to each stat, which I think is pretty eh. And she also increases ability cooldown times for the enemy, which can be good, but there are so many buffs nowadays that if they throw a single uni, it'll clear something like this, so it's not that big of a deal. Rejection resistance, I feel like there hasn't been a good rejection monster in a long time, so who really cares? Water and star defense, that's actually pretty gnarly. That's pretty good. All right, moving on to Fern. She hits pretty hard with magic damage. She does 180 buff, absolute, which gives you an additional attack skill, and she applies serenity, which gives you 100% to HP defense and magic defense, with a huge interesting buff that when it expires, it gives you 100% unison. It's a really unique buff that wasn't really used a lot when it first came out. Even after it came out, it wasn't used a lot. Rage took most of the spotlight, but Serenity is really interesting. And also Phalanx, which is a pretty disappointing bubble, in my opinion. This is an almost identical monster to the Wind Valk. The only difference being that they replaced Elevation with Phalanx, with Serenity, which I don't really know how I feel about that. Serenity is really interesting, but this is a dark monster, so it's a little bit different. Same thing, 35k here, and increases unison gauge gains by 2. Who really cares about that? I mean, that's not why you would throw this monster anyway. Slumber resistance is really powerful in PvP, but not really great for PvE or guild battles, honestly. And then fire and dark defense, which is also pretty gnarly. So overall, I'd say this monster is 9 out of 10. I think Elevation is still way better, and the Valk Bubble is also better. But if you missed out on Valk, or if you are a collector and you wanted to get another monster, I think this is a really, overall, really excellent setup for a monster. I think it's really solid. And now we have Stark. Stark hits twice for 1,000 for physical, which is extremely high damage. There's a lot of debate about whether or not that's good. There's a similar monster that came out a long time ago in the 7 Deadly Sins. It was the Sin of Pride. And he hit twice for like 500, and he was extremely powerful at the time. So you can probably assume that this monster will just one-shot teams, as long as they don't have some kind of protection like a barrier or reflect. He's a healing monster, which is extremely unique for a high damage monster. Heals CP and HP, gives you 7 points of reduces 7 hits down to 0, which is pretty solid. Grace, which gives you 100 cost at the end of it, which is pretty solid. Skirmish, which is okay. And he gives 40k, 500 defense, but it's only 900. The other two monsters gave 600 to 2 different stats, so a total of 1200. So in my opinion, it's much worse. This one is not nearly as good. And then 60 prohibit Unison, which is actually pretty damn good. Overall, Stark is probably 5 out of 10 if you are a physical character. You basically only use this in PvP though. So honestly, in any other thing, probably a 2 or 3 out of 10. Yeah, not great for guild battles. Not good at all for guild battles, to be honest. It basically just be for Colosseum. Which, I mean, it's not great for either. Worble is actually a pretty interesting monster. The decrease activation priority, generally speaking, people don't like that. But in some circumstances, it can actually be extremely useful. For example, if the enemies are trying to kill you in guild battle and you want them to win and go into the crystal to attack your crystal, and you're trying to cripple them in a way that will prevent them from getting Unison and from being able to fight back. That's like an older strategy that was used probably a couple years ago, but it was basically that you would intentionally lose the clash, and you would send the enemies into crystal with extreme debuffs on them, and then they couldn't build uni, they couldn't kill the crystal, and so you would be able to win. So decreased priority can be extremely useful, and this monster is a lock monster. It applies slumber, insanity, support penalty, constriction. It removes costs, which we've kind of talked about. I don't think that would even really apply. Gives yourself barracks, which is the best bubble. And he also gives you 40k in stats, which is really good. Time elemental defense 900, which is pretty solid. Obviously, it would be better if it was 600 and 600 like some of the other monsters, but it's fine. And then frozen resistance, which frozen is pretty uncommon. It's not looked on with admiration, so it doesn't get used a lot. Overall, I think this monster is really niche, so I'm gonna say he's a 4 out of 10. There are cases though, and specific strategies that where this monster could probably be a 9 out of 10. But again, like for overall use, probably like a 4, maybe a 3 out of 10. It kind of depends, honestly. Next monster is Yubel. She removes basically all protections from the enemies, and then she hits you. And she hits pretty hard, to be fair. 5 times with 500, that's pretty damn good. All enemies, she removes attack speed and removes frenzy, some more stripping, and then she gives you Hera buff. So if you guys know the 10th collaboration monster, she gives those buffs. So she gives really high ability power, she gives ability power when you crit, as well as the crit assault, which is really strong. And then she gives yourself armament bubble, which is great for attack and magic attack, and then world element, which guarantees crits. Overall, this monster is exceptionally good. The only thing that this monster doesn't do is time slice, but everything else this monster is exceptionally strong at. So I would say this monster is a 10 out of 10. Very, very powerful monster. If you don't have Hera, this would be an excellent replacement for Hera. I didn't even go over her other things, but she gives 35k, which we've talked about. It's not great. She also reduces enemy status ailments, which is extremely powerful in guild battles and in PvP, because you can use this monster and then follow it up with a monster that can cripple them, or like abstraction, which removes their ability to have their constants work. So your Unison gauge reduction constants get disabled, and then monsters can one-shot you. So extremely good. Yeah, this makes it even better. That's why it's a 10 out of 10 monster for sure. Insanity resistance, also really good. There are so many strong insanity monsters. Insanity resistance is extremely powerful, and when you're hit with insanity, you can't do anything. You're just completely dead in the water. So really good. Also gives you 602 elements. There's basically nothing that this monster can do more except for like time slice the enemy. It's a really good monster. And lastly, you have Denin, who is probably, no, he just straight up is the absolute worst monster in this entire collab. I'm just gonna be honest. He doesn't hit for any damage, basically. He reduces enemies' stats by 80%, which is extremely mid. I mean, there are like 25 cost monsters that do that. Reduces enemies' speed for action moving, which is okay for like PvE if he did more PvE things, but he does the same thing for enemies and then reduces enemy cooldowns. So he's like a mix between like a PvE monster and a PvP monster. So he doesn't do either of them really well. Reducing cost and action speed isn't that great. Reducing enemy ability power, ability cooldown also isn't that great. I've talked about this, like things like cost reduction, Unison gauge reduction, and ability cooldown reduction. Those are so easy to remove by throwing a monster. Basically, any monster with a really strong buff will just clear all of those buffs, or all of those debuffs instantly. So these are really weak debuffs in general to put on a player. But I mean, this isn't bad. If it had more PvE stuff, that would be great. But Iron Wall is really an interesting ability. It gives you a bunch of things. I think it gives you like resurrection and 50% damage reduction. Iron Wall's not bad, actually. I think Iron Wall's pretty solid. But that's the only thing that it does. Readout isn't great because it just applies to yourself. And Revolutionary Field, I mean, if you're throwing this monster for a field, then you really just have no good monsters. I don't know, this monster doesn't do anything. 40k, 940k, and Slumber Resistance. Slumber Resistance is okay. I mean, I'm not seeing anything in this monster, to be honest. Like, 2 out of 10. I don't know, just so useless. So, now on to the fun part. I'm gonna try to get I want to try Frieren, to be honest. This Fortify sounds really interesting. I don't think it's really that great. I want Fern and I want Yubel. So I'm gonna do some spawns now. So hopefully I get Yubel so that I can move on to Fern. I haven't done a spawn video yet. I wonder if I should separate this and make this like its own thing. Okay, is that the armor? Oh, okay, it's the clothing. Very nice. That's actually not bad. Oh, okay. Damn. So Worble's one of those monsters that I really wanted, but I didn't actually want to spawn for, because to be honest, I don't think it's worth it, personally. It's just, that was my personal opinion. I also got the book. That's pretty gnarly. I have a bunch of light books. Oh, snap. That's the bitch. All right, well, I got Yubel, so now let's try to go get Fern. If I got Frieren, Fern, and Yubel in 2, that'd be insane. What is that? Oh, it's the hat. Okay, that's not bad. I mean, I prefer the helm, to be honest. I'd actually much prefer the helm, but it is what it is. What? I got the hat again? Okay, well. Okay, I got another scythe. I did the free spawn and got a scythe. I thought that was pretty random. I don't know what I would do with the scythe, to be honest. Okay, Frieren. That's not bad. I mean, I wanted her anyway, so. So this should be the 3rd spawn, and then I'll see how many I have at the end. Oh, look at that! It's the armor. Very nice. Is this the? No, it's not the last one. Okay. I feel like there are so many monsters that I didn't used to have that I have now, and I'm just so numb to them. Like I feel like 41 cost is so garbage now. Man, the axe looks badass, but I don't know what I would do with a light axe. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Okay. So I guess I'll trade for Fern. Doesn't bother me. That's interesting. I got like basically all of the good monsters. Let's see how many I've got. Step up medals. Oh shit. Yeah, so I've been rolling really low on them. So I guess I'll have to spawn it again. Yeah, this is, I've basically never had good luck with the medals, like getting high rolls on the medals consistently. I feel like I consistently roll low. Like, look at that, 101. Hey, another armor, or clothing. That's not bad. Oh, what the fuck? Okay, well, I could stop spawning, but I'm so close. another book. Damn. Sorry guys, I'm getting a little bit sick here, I think. Is that Frieren? Oh, damn. Alrighty. Well, I guess I'll have to decide. Oh, what the fuck, man? Alright, well, I guess I have to spend even more gems. Wish me luck in the 10% chance. Alright, yeah, I didn't get anything. Am I good now? Okay, yeah. So I was at somewhere, I should look back at the timestamp. I think I was at like 1270. So yeah, it took me almost 1,000 gems to get to 4K medals. So just a heads up on how difficult, how many gems you'll have to spend on something like this. Let's see, how many spots do I have open? Okay, let me sell something really fast. Oh, I could have sold that too. Here, sell that. All right, now let's go find and see what stats they were. Fern. And I'm not gonna exchange for the scroll right now. I don't think that, I haven't decided. I'll have to decide later which monster I want in correct stats. I really want to do more testing with Frieren, to be honest. See if that monster is worth it. Because I looked at it and I was like, man, this looks like such a shit monster. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, actually, this could be extremely, extremely good. Okay, I actually got damn good stats on everything. I like it. I like that. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys for sticking with me, even though I'm not producing tons of videos right now. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys later.